This week, confounding his supporters, Governor Rick Snyder signed a controversial bill into law allowing faith-based adoption agencies to deny referrals based on religious beliefs. Now, some people are surprised by this because the governor normally avoids hot-button social issues like that. In fact, a couple of months ago, you remember, he vetoed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act without adding civil rights protections for LGBT people. So this decision, of course, drawn lots of criticism, sparked an editorial in the Detroit Free Press.
Yeah, and it said the legislation is a craven attempt to cloak discrimination in faith, and it leaves the best interests of the 13,000 children in the state's care entirely out of the equation. It goes on to say that's lousy moral company for Michigan to keep. It's lousy business company for Michigan to keep, and it's especially shameful for a governor whose own preachings about tolerance and acceptance obviously mean less than appeasing his party's religious conservatives. Now, you may recall that that paper endorsed Governor Snyder back in the fall by a narrow margin over challenger Mark Schauer.
Ouch words. Joining us now, Stephen Henderson, editor of the Detroit Free Press editorial page, also host of Detroit Today on WDET Radio weekday mornings, 9 at 10 a.m. Hey, Stephen, I gave you a little plug there.
I saw that.
Yeah, so are you surprised the governor signed this bill? I mean, and also signed it so quickly after the track record he's had on issues like this one?
Well, I'm not sure we would say surprised. One of the things we did say in our endorsement of him when we looked at a wide range of issues in the election, but one of the ones where we found him wanting was in standing up to the extreme wing of his own party and saying no to these kind of things. So this was one of our concerns, I should say, going into this second term. I was surprised that he signed it quickly. I think the timing of it is also pretty bad because the Supreme Court is going to rule on this issue in a very big sense in a few weeks and could make this whole law unconstitutional. But overall, there's no question, it's disappointing. There was not a really great reason for him to do this, and I think he's really out of step with an awful lot of people here in Michigan.
Is he playing both sides, perhaps, that he knows the court's going to turn this thing down, so he might as well go ahead and appease his far right and at the same time know he's not doing any damage?
You know, that would be, I suppose, smart politics in some sense. But here you're making such a profound moral statement that I think the cost on that side is way too high to pay for any sort of political advantage you might get. This is saying to an awful lot of people in the state that their concerns, that their civil liberties just don't matter.
Stephen, so when it comes down to it, why do you think he signed this but said he wasn't going to sign the Religious Freedom Restoration Act?
Well, you know, I think he has said before that he believes there needs to be a tricky sort of balance between civil rights and religious freedoms. It was a narrow question when he vetoed RFRA. I suppose this was probably a narrow question in the other direction. You know, this is not something that I think is real easy for this governor. I think he thinks pretty hard and long about these things, and as he says, they're not the kind of things he wants to deal with. It's the legislature that throws this stuff in his lap. You know, you got to make decisions, though. He made this one. I think he's wrong. I think he's flat wrong, and again, we're really disappointed.
Well, you're disappointed, and your words obviously indicate that in the editorial. Now, do you regret endorsing Snyder back in the fall? Is the honeymoon over? Are you done with the guy?
No, we don't regret endorsing him. Endorsements are made based on a wide range of issues and where candidates come. We wrote a 4,000-word editorial about why we thought Snyder was very narrowly the better choice. I would write pretty much the same editorial today, given the record of him and Mark Schauer, the Democratic candidate. But I always say endorsement proposals are not marriage proposals. We're not saying we're in love with anybody. We might endorse you and then tell you in a couple weeks that we don't like what you're doing. And
more like dating.
This is a good example
That's
of
right.
us doing that.
No
That's
major
right.
long-term commitment here, right? All right, Stephen
That's
Henderson,
right.
thank you so much for your insight.